There we go.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah.
how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. There's a really big truck outside my window right now because my neighbors are like redoing their house, so hopefully you can't hear it.
I
Can you hear
can't.
it?
No.
Okay, good. I sat down. I was like, oh, of course, the timing of this.
I know. I feel like that's always the way. Every time I want to do a recording, that's when the garbage truck is right outside.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Yes. Oh my God. Last year for workshop week, I remember it was the morning of workshop week, and of course, the first year I'm like freaking out that everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Neighbor beside me who like never mows his lawn, never takes care of his property. All of a sudden that day, he had a tree removal company. Like they were
Oh my goodness.
inside my office.
Oh my goodness.
What the odds of this? Oh God, the worst.
Terrible. Sorry.
What's new?
I don't know. Just I have had like a super busy 6 months. I did workshop week for you. I did creative retreat live with Peggy, and there was another bundle thing and launching a bunch of stuff. And anyway, I'm exhausted, but
Yeah, life.
I'm sure you are also exhausted on top of just this sheer exhaustion of growing a human is just a lot. So, how are you?
Good. It's been interesting so far because I'm used to being able to just like, push myself to do stuff when I need to do stuff.
Yeah.
Even this morning, I was like doing my hair and I was like, oh, I need to sit down. I need to take a break. Am I gonna be like, am I gonna be able to do this today? And I like
Yeah.
normally on filming days, like whenever I want to film for YouTube, I like do my hair, I put my makeup on, and I'm like, okay, now I have to do it. Like this is done. I have
Yeah.
to sit down and film. And then today, after I put it all on, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it today.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
never happened to me before. It's like, I guess it's preparing me for being a mother when things are out of my control, but man.
Yeah, I just remember because I have a kid and he's 3. So it's been 3 years since I've been pregnant, but it was the worst year of my life. I hated being pregnant so much. So hopefully you don't feel as crappy as I did, but I just remember thinking, cool, okay, so I can do one thing. I get to, whenever I wake up today, I can do one thing. And then everything after that one thing is not sure at all. Like maybe I'll be able to do 2 things, but probably just one big thing. And then I have to rest the whole rest of the day.
Which is crazy because like, for the first up to, I don't know, maybe 15 weeks, I felt like I couldn't do anything at all. I had just had to lie on the couch, which whatever,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But then after that, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel better. And then one day I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get groceries. And I was feeling great, got dressed, went to the grocery store. I'm like halfway through doing groceries, I felt like I got hit by a bus. And I was like, I didn't do anything. Like, come on, body. Like,
I just
oh my
got
God.
in the car.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
No,
crazy.
I totally feel you. And I mean, already I'm sure like it's you already have to navigate like having MS and dealing with your business and everything and adding pregnancy on top of that. I just, you know, hopefully, hopefully you will get a reprieve soon. But the only thing I could ever say, like the only thing that ever made me feel better about being pregnant was that it would be over at some point. So
Yeah, and then you're just thrown into the life of trying to
and then
be.
you have a newborn. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Um,
that's yeah, I'm excited for you though.
Selfishly, I want to just talk about what it looks like being, and I think that it would be interesting for people to hear actually what it looks like
Yeah.
being a content creator and an author and all the things while being a new mom. New meaning like if he's 3, then that's
Oh
it.
yeah, it's still
You
new. I
Yeah.
still feel fresh. Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that. Absolutely. I actually people ask me about that all the time. Ask me for tips and I'm just like, I don't have any except you just keep going. I don't know.
Okay, we can talk about that. I think we should talk about that. And I mean, there's probably people watching who are like, oh, I don't want to listen to that. And it is what it is. You're not going to want to listen to every conversation, but we'll talk about other things. We'll talk about creative stuff too. But before we can, I know we kind of just like jumped into it for 10 minutes there, but can you tell people who you are and what you do and all that stuff before we actually just like talk about random things?
Yes, yes, I can. So my name is Kolbie Blume. I am a self-taught watercolor artist, author, and online educator. My handle on Instagram is This Writing Desk. And I just kind of fell into being a creator, fell into being a content creator by accident, like I think many people do. And it was probably one of the scariest and also best pivots decisions I've ever made. So anyway, that's who I am. I make landscapes, as you can see back here.
So, this has nothing to do with what we said we were going to talk about, but who knows where this will go. If your handle is This Writing Desk, does that mean that you thought you were going to be doing more writing originally and then you started painting? Like, I'm curious what that history is.
I'm so glad you asked about that. So when I first started, I did hand lettering and calligraphy. And I also, when I went to university, I majored in literature. And so I love writing and books. And so initially I wanted my handle to be The Writing Desk, like how is a raven like a writing desk from Alice in Wonderland. And The Writing Desk was taken maddeningly by somebody who hadn't posted on Instagram for 3 years.
Same story with Happy Ever Crafter, just Happy Ever Crafter.
Yeah, so funny. Anyway, so I did This Writing Desk because I thought that, handles have the @ symbol in front of them. So it was like, at this writing desk, I'm going to do lots of things. And obviously it's something that is not obviously related to watercolor, but I kept it because even after I kind of switched from hand lettering to watercolor, which was probably like 2 years in maybe, I kept it because a writing desk doesn't just have to be for writing, right? You can do lots of things at a writing desk. And so, and by that time I had already like had my website, and it just kind of still felt like it fit. And the only other thing I would change it to is maybe to my name, which I think is what a lot of people do. They change from, the clever handle that they made when they thought nobody would ever discover them to their name. But I don't know, I kind of like being unique and doing things that aren't what you're supposed to do. So I've just kept it.
That's actually what I was about to use, the word unique. I like it. I think it's unique. It doesn't really matter that it isn't about painting, like you said.
Yeah.
We'll know you for it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about what you do day to day. Like, people hear content creator or like author or artist or whatever, and it's still like, I feel like it's still an abstract concept in people's minds.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I used to wonder this all the time before I did it. So honestly, probably most of my time is spent answering emails and like researching things and whatever. But really all of those titles mean is just, I'm sure I do a million different things all the time. And so going back to your original question, what do you do day to day? Like a typical day for me is I wake up, I take my son to daycare, I come home, make myself a cup of cinnamon tea and sit at my desk, and maybe I'll go through emails. I have ADHD, so I don't always have the attention span or executive function for emails every day, but I'll sit down and I'll go through emails, and then I will kind of make a to-do list of like the top 2 things I want to get done that day. Like I have one work time and then another work time in the afternoon where I know like I want to do some focus work. And so usually it's painting. Sometimes it's painting for like if I'm writing another book, or if I'm making a new course or something, then I will do some like rough drafts for potential projects and things. And then in the afternoon, that's when I try to do like filming or writing. A big part of my business is I do a weekly newsletter, and it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of like a weekly essay, more like, because I'm a writer. I really like writing and talking about mindset things. And so my newsletter is kind of like a long form read. And so that usually takes me like 2 or 3 hours to write. And so sometimes I'll do that. And then in between all of those, like the 2 hours of focus work, it is a lot of video editing, a lot of posting stuff on Instagram, a lot of wasting time on Instagram, and then trying to get myself off of Instagram so that I can actually do something useful, and testing out new supplies. And I do a lot of brainstorming ideas, because when you're a content creator, it's easy to think that like the ideas just like come and you're just have the muses grant you all of these ideas on high. But it takes a lot of focus work for me, and I enjoy it, but it takes a lot of focus work for me to sit down and brainstorm ideas that I actually think are good. And so I try to dedicate time to doing that. But then I also run the risk of burning out if I try to do all of those things in one day. And so I've been trying the last few weeks to carve out specific time to like read a book and go to the gym and go for a walk. Anyway, all of these things are possible now because my kid is in full-time daycare. It was not possible before, up until like a month ago, because he was only in part-time daycare then. And so that means only carving out an hour here or 2 hours there. Or anyway, I'm rambling on and on, but that's how my
No, but
brain
you've just rounded back to what I wanted to talk about. And selfishly, I'm like, okay, let's keep talking about this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as you know, as much of the audience knows, and I don't know when this will air. This will probably air after I'm already doing the thing, because realistically, who knows what the schedule will be. But I am pregnant, and I'm obviously kind of like, well, I'm used to trying to put out a video or 2 new videos, plus all the reels and all the TikToks and everything every week. And I'm absolutely not going to be able to do that. And this morning I logged on Instagram, and the first video I saw was a friend of mine who talks a lot about social media content and creation and stuff. And she was talking about how trying to batch content is like, whoever came up with that concept obviously has never really done it, because it's not easy to do that. And it just feels really unnatural to do that. And I was like, oh my God, it's not just me, because I've tried to do that before and it doesn't really work. And so I end up kind of just filming like a video every week and then posting it. And it's not super productive, but it's the way it is. And it makes me feel more authentic with what I'm doing too, because I filmed that video, I'm giving it to you this week kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, well, if I want to take a break when I have a child, I'm going to need to do that, either that or just not post at all. And so I'm trying to figure out what the heck that's going to look like. So talk to me what it looked like for you.
Oh, yeah, it's rough. I mean, I think it's different for everybody. I think that different newborns, different new parents have different needs and different energy levels, and different schedules and different access to childcare and all of those things. But for me, my productivity, I guess, just plummeted as soon as I got pregnant. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of an interesting story, actually. Now, like you're talking about particularly navigating content creation and like posting on social media with art and whatever. When I got pregnant, I found out October 2018. And that was like, it was like the peak of my Instagram success. Like I was getting like 5,000 new followers a week. Every single video I posted went viral. It was all of this like attention, and I was feeling like, okay, cool, I've made it. I'm past 100,000 followers. Here we are. And I just quit my job to be full-time. And then I got pregnant, and my goodness, was I so sick. I I tried to sit at my desk and work for like 30 minutes, and I broke into a sweat after 15. Like, it's not just that I was like sick and, you know, I couldn't, it was like my body literally couldn't stand to sit there.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I couldn't even open my phone because looking at my phone made me nauseated. And so I got pregnant. I posted a video. It was like my first ever video to get 1 million views. Which this was before Reels, right? Anyway, it was my first ever video to get 1 million views, but the only one. And I didn't open my phone again for like 4 weeks. I didn't open Instagram again for like 4 weeks, and my engagement just plummeted. And I know that this is not like a unique story. Lots of people have had some version of this. Even if you do post consistently, Instagram changes so much that, you know, engagement plummets. But I went from, you know, reaching like over 1 million people all the time to barely even like reaching hardly like 1% of the people who follow me. And that's been like 3.5 years, and it hasn't ever really come back. And so you talking about sustainability and batch creating and like, you know, the whole, to be successful on social media, you have to post consistently and post every day. And I found it entirely unrealistic as a pregnant person. And then as a new mother, especially because you're running on like, especially when you have newborns, you're waking up all hours of the night. You can't, like they say, sleep when the baby sleeps, but I never was able really to do that. And you aren't. No, you don't have anything left. And so like all of the helpful tips of like batch creating and everything, it's really hard. And so really for probably like a year, I thought, well, I just have to build habits and I just have to build routines that will make it so that I can actually like, you know, produce the same amount of content that I was, just in different ways. And I have since come to the realization that it's okay for things to change, and it's okay for my best to look different than it used to be. And so, you know, in terms of how I've navigated that, I think the biggest hurdle for me was the mindset shift from feeling like I have to do things the way that I've always done them in order to be successful. I have to get back all of my, you know, the engagement or whatever that I've lost. I have to keep posting. I just have to keep posting. And it was a hard like emotional shift to come to, because you get so much validation from doing things a certain way. And then when you feel like that's successful, it's almost like you won't ever be able to feel, you're worried you won't ever be able to get the same kind of results that you had before. And the reality is that you won't. They're going to be different. But over the last few years, my son is 3. It's become extremely evident to me that in order to make content creation and art and business sustainable as new parents, you also have to level set and redefine what success actually means. Is success about numbers, or is success about the way that you feel like you're connecting with the people you're actually reaching? You know, is success about how many views you can get on Instagram, or is success about you going to sleep at the end of the day feeling like, wow, I am literally living my dream because I get to make art and people pay me for it. Maybe they're not paying me as much as they would if I didn't have a kid, because I can't work as much as I can. It's not possible, but that doesn't matter so much. And anyway, none of that was like really helpful tips, but that's the biggest thing that has been my hurdle. So
it's such an interesting conversation, because like the underlying message that I'm hearing you talk about a lot is just like, isn't it crazy how much social media has this like grip and like has created this false like, I don't even know what to call it, like a hold on us,
Yes.
for absolutely no reason. Like
Yes.
then the part of my brain that wants to stick up for social media is like, no, it's not for no reason. It's because
Oh
that's
yeah.
build a business and blah, 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 blah. But like, I'll be fine if social media doesn't exist anymore, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but you just have all this pressure to feel like you have to post every day or your engagement's going to change. And like, yeah, what if my engagement changes? Like, that's okay.
Yeah. It is. Well, and here's the thing too, that because I similarly, I don't love all the Instagram hate. I think that people love to jump on the Instagram's the worst. And, and I think that their social media 100% there's this danger where when you put so much stock in what other people think of you, but that's not just social media, right? That's like everything. That's perfectionism. That's relying on external validation in order to feel good about yourself. And social media just heightens that. And I was already there. I was already relying on other people to make me feel good about myself. And so social media it was kind of like in the height of me trying to struggle with perfectionism, being viral on social media just made it worse because I was getting so much dopamine, so much like attention. I was feeling so good about myself, but it was for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't because I was actually intentionally focusing on what matters to me. It was because I was getting high from everybody else telling me how great I was. And the problem with that is when that goes away, then you're left with nothing. And so, but I've kind of come full circle in that I'm almost grateful for that, because now I have spent years building up my sense of self so that it's anchored on me and what I really care about. And I listened to this podcast called Creative Pep Talk, and a couple weeks ago, one of the episodes they talked about was when you dream about something, should you take it literally, or maybe should you dig deeper and think about what the dream actually says about you? So like when you dream about being viral on social media, when you dream about being a content creator, when you dream about being a mother who can do it all, right? What is the actual underlying thing? Like, do you need all of those resume builders in order to accomplish that dream? Or is it something deeper than that, like a deeper longing inside of yourself that actually you can provide right this minute, right now, without needing all of those like external validators, right? And so for me, it was like, well, I just want to reach all these people. Okay, why do you want to reach all these people? Because I'm supposed to. Yeah, and because I'm supposed to. And then you think, okay, well, why is it important for me to reach all of those people? What's actually important to me? And that's when it still hurts when I post something and it like, I only get very little views, or, you launch something and it doesn't go well, or, when you put yourself out there and you don't get the external validation you're craving, it still hurts. But being able to come back to, but that's not the reason that I did it. That's not the reason that I'm here. The reason that I'm here and showing up is because I actually genuinely care about this. It makes me feel like an infinite, expansive person, and being able to connect with other people individually makes me feel bigger than I possibly ever could by myself. And I wouldn't have that without social media. And so I think that like I would, but not with people who live across the world, like it would be so much harder. And so I definitely understand all of the just like frustration and annoyance and vitriol. I get it. And also with that comes this ability to recenter yourself and realize what is important and take what's important from Instagram and leave the rest. And anyway, this turned into a conversation about social media in addition to motherhood, but we're just all over the place. So
the whole point of these conversations is just
Mhm.
chat, the real chats. Like I think even personally, I used to have guests on my YouTube channel, and I used to feel like it had to be like there had to be a lesson, there had to be a point, there had to be action points for people to take. But I think people just like hearing the reality that, you know, because we present ourselves as polished, perfect, you know, not always, but like if I'm posting something on social media, I'm obviously going to put a nice filter on it, make it look nice and frame it nicely and whatever. But no, it's actually very, very hard. And we're all
yes.
struggling behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that it's hard. I did this when I first started, you know, you'd look at people. I mean, I think when I first joined Instagram, you probably had like, I don't know, like 50 or 60,000 followers maybe. So you were still like definitely a rising star. And I just remember looking at accounts like yours and other people's and thinking, wow, they have it all together. And then I got there and I'm like, oh, okay, so probably not. This is just, I'm still me. I'm still a human. Just now I have all of this extra, you know, all this extra mental hurdles to go through. And anyway, but it's hard because it's also awesome, right? Like it's not awful all the time. It's awful sometimes, and then it's amazing other times. And
I just think it's so funny, you know, when you meet people and they ask you what you do. And I think that's how this whole, this whole question started. It was like, talk to me about a day in your life.
yeah,
But like you can't, I could tell you about a day in my life to an average stranger, and it would never turn into this conversation because they just don't understand, you know,
yeah,
what it actually looks like, and the pressure that comes with it, which is, like we said, it's kind of a self-imposed pressure. But like, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's a huge conversation. It's making my head spin a little right now. Because I'm,
yeah.
yeah, I still want to batch some content.
I know, because in the back of your mind, you're like, but it must be possible, though. It must be possible. Like I've tried to batch content so many times. I have tried, like back to the original question. I have tried to batch content so many times, and it's so, like you said, it's really hard. I think especially the very specific kind of content creator that we are, like it's not just creating Instagram content, it's creating art and then making it into Instagram content. And so it's like two different kinds of creativity on top of all of the, like, you know, the technical aspects that go into it. And like, even if you hire editors, even if you like try to outsource, even if you try to streamline, it still takes creative focus. It still takes a lot of energy from you, and it's great, but it's also exhausting. And so sitting down, like all of the content, all of the, you know, Instagram marketing people who are like, here's how to create a month's worth of content in one day. I'm like, that's not possible for me. I cannot possibly create a month's worth of watercolor content in one day. I can't do that. I would be a shell of a person.
And that's for people who, you know, they run like a storefront business and they need to keep up on social media by posting like quotes, or like they can make a Canva
Yes.
graphic and put it up. But I've had this conversation, I think it was with Shada previously, where we talked about how it's almost like being a content creator for art makes you a worse artist in a
Yes.
way.
Yes.
Because you're thinking more about how it's presented and how people will learn from it than your actual creative flow, which I can totally relate to, because it's really rare that I'll sit down and just like be in a creative flow. I don't do that because my brain is going, okay, how can I break this down into steps?
Yeah, it's no, totally. And especially when, like, not just when you're a content creator and an artist, but also an art teacher. I found that like exactly like you said, I have to practice being in a creative flow just for myself. And I have to force myself not to film it. And I have to self-talk my way down from, I don't have to turn this into a Skillshare class. I don't have to turn this into a tutorial. in fact, it's probably going to be better for me if I don't.
But
But
I
it's but I could, but I can see how this is possible. Like, this is case in point. I've been trying to use a sketchbook lately, and because I'm terrible, I have like closets full of empty notebooks and empty sketch pads, thinking like, these are great, I'm going to use them, and then I never do. But I've been trying to just like force myself to do it, because this is what I preach every single day on Instagram. I say, courage over perfection, and just it can be messy and you're allowed. And so I've been trying to actually practice that. And even so, I'm like, ooh, I could make a sketchbook class out of this. And then I have to say, no, bad. You can, but also that's not the point of this. Like, the point of you doing this isn't so that you can turn it into content. The point is for you to find fulfillment. And maybe if naturally it turns into content later, sure, that's not a bad thing. But also, it's hard to carve out time. And this kind of comes back to motherhood too. Like, when you're busy taking care of a kid, and you're busy taking care of students, and you're busy taking care of a community that you've built and you love and you put your whole heart into, it's hard to remember that you're a person also. And that it's okay to make something just because it's fun. Like, it doesn't have to be about you giving something. It doesn't have to be about you looking after, like, for me, I've realized I get a lot of validation from teaching other people, and I like it. Like, I have genuine connections and I love it, but also sometimes I rely too heavily on it, so that I ignore the parts of myself that I'm afraid of, like, I'm almost afraid of the kind of artist I could be. And so I throw myself into teaching and I throw myself into motherhood so that I don't have to do the hard work of developing my own creative practice and the kind of art that I want to make as a person, not as a teacher, not as a content creator, but as an artist. And yeah, it all gets so muddled. It's so easy to lose yourself when you're so busy trying to build up other people. Yeah.
I'm so interested if this conversation is going to resonate with people other than you and I, because other creators, I'm sure, who are in the same shoes as us, but people who have never tried to do this kind of thing, if any of this is going to even make sense, because it feels so like it's such a the only word I can think of is really awful, and I can't say it.
Yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say. No, I've thought about stuff like this for years, and I try to be really vulnerable on Instagram. Like, people know me for saying like, I'm a big mess and this is how I feel, and here are mindset tips, and I've been where you are. And this is like the one topic that is hard for me to talk about, because I think it might come across as ungrateful,
Yes.
like, it's like I have this thing that so many people desperately want. I have this business that I've built up over 6.5 years of hard work. I have this community that I honestly feel like I just kind of got lucky to go viral a few times. And now I'm here and I've shown up, and my business is sustainable. Last year was the first time that my business brought in more money than I made when I was working a salary job in my nonprofit. And it felt amazing. But also, then I feel guilty when I feel things like this, like, oh, it's so hard, because I don't want to seem ungrateful. And it's the same with my kid, like, oh, it's so hard, but also I'm glad I have you. I'm glad you're here.
But I think that the thing the thing that you need to remember, I need to remember, people need to remember when they're hearing this conversation is like, we're just choosing to record it. But most people have coworkers who do the same thing as them that they can vent to. They can go for a drink after work. We don't have we are each other's coworkers, right?
Yes.
And so you're just hearing the vent session that everybody has naturally with their job, even if they love it. There's always pieces that are hard. But I get what you mean. Like, it's hard to vent about it when it's also, people are like, you have the best job. You are so lucky. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I am, but I also some days am really putting a lot of pressure on myself and making myself feel like crap, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's really easy to imagine. I think it's really easy to imagine your dreams as like this, perfect place where you're happy all the time and everything goes great and you've worked so hard and you finally made it. And that's what makes perfectionism so sneaky, is because it all seems so doable. It all seems so possible for you to get to that place. And for me, I've realized that I say that a lot. I've realized that's true. I have had so many realizations over the past 6 years that have made a big difference for me. But like, I think that it's easy to imagine that that the thing you want the most will turn you into a person that you are always happy to be, if that makes sense. And the reality that for me, like my inner critic that perfectionism doesn't want me to realize, is that every single path you take is going to be hard. Every single path you take is going to force you to grow in some way and force you to realize that, oh, the world isn't perfect. I'm never going to get to that state of like nirvana, right? I'm never going to get to that state where everything is exactly the way that I want it. But maybe, and this is where creativity comes in, maybe that's better. Maybe actually it's better to have the pushback, because when you have the pushback is when you have to learn to think about things in a new way. And it's nice to sit and dream about your dream job. Like, oh, what would it be if I owned my own business? And it would be so great if I could work from home all day and I could just do whatever I wanted. And it's nice to dream about that. But for me, it actually feels more amazing when I'm come crashing down and then I find a way through anyway. Like I'm crashing down into reality. And then I have this breakthrough that's like, oh, maybe my dream wasn't actually what I wanted. And maybe what I wanted, I can actually have right this minute. If I can just be open enough and, let go of this ideal to do it, and to let go of this all or nothing mindset that like either you have everything you ever wanted or your life is terrible. Maybe it's okay for my life to be a bit of a mess and there's still magic in there. Anyway, now I've gone off on like really ethereal things, but that's my
I was about to say this is the conversation that I didn't realize I needed. Moment. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get off this and just take out a journal and like journal about what I'm gonna really want, because I started this being like, okay, how did you batch your content? And now I'm like, no, what actually matters?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, I think it's just like I went into business. That actually brings up something too. Like before I quit my job, I like binged on all the business podcasts. I looked up all the YouTube videos, all the blog posts. I was like, what's the secret? And then I got a little bit more money. So I invested in all the courses and I was like, okay, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one that tells me the secret to all of the success that I've ever dreamed of. And I have to tell you, I know a lot about business now after like 3 or 4 years, specifically this business, right? I know a lot about building this kind of business, and there is no secret. There is no secret. And it's just, the secret is actually learning to accept that you are doing your best in this moment right now. And it's okay for you to embrace your best for exactly what it is, and to not be so hard on yourself. I think that, I was, like I said, I got pregnant 2 weeks after I quit my job. So it was like I was building a business baby at the same time as I was growing a real baby. And then like, what was it, like 8 months later, my publisher approached me about writing a book. And so I was just like doing all of these really hard things at the same time. I was trying to build a business while I was growing a baby. And then I was trying to write a book while I was holding a newborn. Like I literally had my kid strapped to my chest while he was asleep, while I was standing up writing my book, my first one. And I think that I didn't know if I would survive, but I did. And I didn't survive all sparkly and shiny and new. I survived with a lot of scars and a lot of scrapes and a lot of failures. There were a lot of things I tried to do that totally failed. Like one course, I remember I put a lot of time and effort into this one course that I thought would like be the one, and it only made 6 sales. And I lose track sometimes, but it's just, there's no secret. The only secret is that everybody is making it up as they go along. Everybody is just trying their best. Everybody has days where they feel like they are just complete garbage, and everybody has days where they feel like they're flying high. And it all changes. Emotions will come and go. Failures will come and go. And it's okay to love yourself and to let exactly how you're doing right now be what success looks like. Like that's okay.
Well, I'm going to call you when like the next time I'm in a moment of being like, how am I going to do this?
You should. And listen, all of these things I'm saying right now, I have to tell myself every single day. Like I'm a big self-talker. My brain never stops running because again, I have ADHD. So it just never stops running. And I used to the constant barrage used to be, you can do better. You can do better. Here's what you could have. Here's what you could have. And over the last few years, after learning that self-compassion is a muscle, it's something you have to practice. I've slowly tried to, every time I hear that you can do better, I slowly tried to say, but also you're doing good right now. Also, this is enough. Also, you're worthy of being in this space exactly as you are. Therapy and medication also help with that, but just, not some superhero. I
love it. Kolbie, thanks for sharing all your wisdom. I know that there might be pieces of that people can't relate to, but I think the overall message most people can relate to, no matter what kind of industry you're in.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think so. So anyway, thanks for chatting with me, Becca.
Thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure this will happen again, whether it's recorded or not. We'll see.
Always happy to.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.